Welcome to the Dork Forest. Jackie and her pals will never bore us. Shameless confessions
about our obsession
will make us laugh and smile. So let's explore the Dork Forest and dork out for a while.
Hello and welcome to the Dork Forest. I'm Jackie Cation. I'm your host. You know the websites, JackieCation.com, DorkForest.com, TheDorkForest.com, FamilyPetAncestry.com. They all go to two basic websites, JackieCation.com and DorkForest.com. Dork Forest will have all of the episodes. It has a bunch of links to the rest of the stuff, but it'll have like the teaser clips and the notes and an episode player, and then it'll have the bonus track, which is not available except on Libsyn's page. So go to dorkforest.com for that bonus track if you like, and then you can also go to the YouTube page for all the teaser tracks if you like, but teaser clips. All right. Let's do the credits. Mike Rickberg composed and sang that song you just heard. He's going to sing again his words to the Mexican hat dance at the end of the program. He sings in the beginning with his wife, Sarah Cohen. Good for them. Okay, Patrick Brady's going to fix this audio, and Vilmos is going to fix, he does JackieCation.com. He keeps that up to snuff. What's the scoop? There are premium episodes that are at neither of those websites. Those premium episodes are on Bandcamp, and they are just about a dozen live episodes. They cost me some money to produce, so I charge $2 a piece if you want them. So if you go to thedorkforest.bandcamp.com, you'll find them. There's also free stuff there, so you can look around. There's 17 of the non-pre-recorded episodes. I did 200 episodes that are in archive back in like 2005 and 6 and 7 that are not available on iTunes, but I cherry-picked like 17 of my favorite ones and put them on an album on Bandcamp. And those are all free. But the sound quality is exactly what you'd think when it was being recorded over the telephone. So know that in your hearts. But they are fun episodes if you have the patience to listen to them. So I hope you enjoy them if you like them. And then there's a storytelling album. Speaking of albums, I have a new album out, a new stand-up comedy album out. It is only available on iTunes and Amazon at this time. By the end of March, I should have CDs if you want to order them on JackieCation.com. It is called I Am Not the Hero of This Story, and it is 1 hour, 45 minutes of material I've been working on for a year. And then the first 15 minutes are political. I have traditionally never been a political comic, but I am now, cause I'm alive and I'm human. Anyway, that's, those last 45 minutes, it'll be available probably on Pandora and Spotify for free if you want to just listen to it. And you can get it on Amazon and iTunes if you want to buy it and download it. And there'll be CDs probably by the end of March. Speaking of things to buy off the website, you can get my other CDs. You can get my DVD. You can get t-shirts, Dork Forest t-shirts and Ranger of the Dork Forest t-shirts, all American made, all available on JackieCation.com on the merch page. Other than that, there is my schedule. This week I am on a cruise in the middle of the Pacific Ocean with a bunch of awesome, the Joko Nerd Cruise is what it's called. And it's Jonathan Colton is a musician, and he invites comics and writers and comic book writers and science fiction authors, to hang out and get to go and sail around. I will be probably incommunicado, and I think we might miss a week because of my schedule. But if we do, well, feel free to catch up, you guys, or go to Bandcamp. Or you could listen to Jackie and Laurie. Jackie and Laurie podcast is my other podcast. I do it on the Nerdist Network. Dork Forest is done on allthingscomedy.com network. And both Nerdist and All Things Comedy have a million other podcasts if you're looking for other podcasts to listen to. But the Nerdist podcast with Laurie Kilmartin that I do is entirely about stand-up comedy, and it is pretty grumpy. So know that before you go in. We just talk about stand-up and how grumpy we are about some of the parts of it. And then we celebrate other parts of it, but sometimes it's grumpy. So know that in your soul. Other than that, next week I am headlining Flappers in Burbank, California, here in Los Angeles. And then I'm in Spokane, Washington and Peoria. Check JackieCation.com, the calendar for all of my future dates. This is a great episode. Let's just get into it already. Hey, and welcome back, you guys. I'm in my living room with my new coffee table that I put a tablecloth on because I thought, well, just put a bunch of Myq stuff on it. Anyway, Myq Kaplan. Speaking of Myq stuff, you're a Myq stuff. I'm Myq Kaplan.
Hello, I am a Myq stuff.
You've been on the program before. Speaking of words,
That's spoking. I just made a new one.
See, right
Yep,
there.
That's what I do. I make mistakes.
And
The end.
You love a word. And I too love a word.
Oh, yes.
And so we discussed your love of words last time in the Dork Forest.
We did, so we don't have to do that anymore.
Exactly. That's it. Everyone gets an hour.
Just sounds.
Exactly. Fuck you and your word
Yeah.
love.
I love mime, and I'd like to do some.
Over in the podcasting world.
Oh, yes.
Myq Kaplan, by the way, MyQ-Kaplan. And it's at Myq Kaplan on all the things.
Yes.
And you have a new album of stand-up comedy with speaking of words.
Oh, yes.
Called No Kidding.
That's right.
Available as we speak.
Yeah, anywhere, everywhere.
And
You already have it.
You already have it.
Thanks for getting it.
You are the YouTube of comedy. The YouTube of comedy. See, I also wrong.
Yes.
With words.
I also wrong with words.
Mm-hmm.
Also, here's a fun word thing. I know we're not talking about words, but when you said word love, I thought about the Spoonerism of that, which is the Lord wove. And the Lord wove word love.
This is the funnest game for you and Zach Sherwin.
Yes.
Good buddies.
It's the funnest fun nest. We have fun in our fun nest. It's the funnest.
Oh my God, you guys are awesome. Welcome to the Dork Forest, you guys. You've committed. We're in. We're on board. So Myq Kaplan, but you have always, and when I say always, I mean for the last year,
Sure.
every time you've come to LA or I've come to New York, you're like, may I speak to my love of the shaman drug thing, ayahuasca.
Oh, yes.
How do you spell ayahuasca?
Ayahuasca.
Good for you.
There's an A every third letter.
Every third letter, which is why you might love it.
Triple A.
Triple A.
Rated.
That's a triple A rated.
In
That's
fact,
it.
ayahuasca has an extra A at the beginning as well that I left out. I mean, I didn't.
Sure.
Yeah.
They didn't leave it out.
No.
You didn't leave it out.
Leave off the first A for everything. For everything.
Okay, here's what I'm going to tell you what I know about ayahuasca.
Please.
First of all, you were the one who brought it up. You were the first one to bring it up.
To you.
To me.
You'd never heard of it.
I've never heard of it.
Oh, yeah.
I had heard of peyote. I had heard of dream catchers. I had heard of of other things of the native peoples.
Yes.
Fry bread, these things. And then several of my friends, not all of them comics, but several of them comics are like, you got to do ayahuasca and you got to have it. They like it. So it is a hallucinogenic.
That is fair.
Okay.
Some might say, I don't know if the word entheogenic.
Plant?
Oh, yeah, it's a plant. It's definitely a plant.
It's a plant-based thing.
Yes.
It grows from the earth.
Yes, it's ayahuasca is a vine.
Okay.
And as I understand it, I don't
Native
know.
to?
South America, the Amazon jungle.
Okay.
As far as I understand. And it also is mixed with the person that I've gone to who creates the mixture from the vine, also combines it with a leaf called chacruna.
Chacruna. Spell that for the people.
Great question.
With a CH?
I would spell it Chakruna, but I 100% might not be right.
Fair enough.
It's an
like the
oral
effort.
tradition.
It's an oral tradition.
Chacruna, spelled with a cha and a cru and a na.
And a na. Yeah. Na.
Yeah.
And so, but they mix it with that leaf to what?
What I understand is, and I'm not positive which one is which, but one of the ingredients, so DMT is the active ingredient, which is present in our brain all the time, but we don't feel the effects of it, which we do when we die. I believe, as I understand it, when we die, our brain floods with DMT,
Okay.
and the experience of dying that people have sometimes, like a near death, or where that might happen,
Yep.
there's potentially people, maybe think they go to heaven, maybe they see white lights, maybe they see their ancestors, maybe,
Right.
All these things, and those are the similar things that you might experience during an ayahuasca ceremony, because the same thing is basically happening. DMT floods your brain because...
Do you know what DMT stands for?
Yes.
Or is it?
Here are my jokes about it.
Okay.
One is death may be timeless. Another is dude, man, trippy.
Okay.
And I believe it's dimethyltryptamine or something very similar to that.
It sounds like turkey. What you get when you eat turkey.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
dimethyltryptophan. Just puts you to
tryptophan.
sleep. Yeah. Have a good rest.
Yeah, it's REM sleep. It's nice.
Oh, it's really relaxing.
Excellent. So,
So one of the ingredients, either the vine or the leaf, has in it a lot of extra DMT.
Okay.
So that shoots up your system full of DMT, but you have these MAOIs, these inhibitors in your brain that keep us from experiencing it all the time.
Right.
Because that's how we go through life without going through death all the time we go through life.
Do people die from it?
Oh, no. I'm just saying that with the experience of what would happen while you're dying would be going on in your brain all the time if the DMT were able to be active all the time, but it's not active all the time. It's only active when the other ingredient, whichever one of them adds DMT, the other one lowers the inhibitor.
There you go.
So now your brain's like,
It's a
aha,
cocktail.
let it all in.
That's it.
Yeah.
I heard a story just yesterday from a friend of a friend who said that he sat with his dad. His dad was 4 hours from dying, and his dad was ready to die. He had said goodbye to everybody, very old man. And he was sitting there with his dad, and he said, his dad was talking about how he's ready to go. And he said to his dad, just, go towards the light, Dad. And his dad just kind of looked at him from his deathbed and said, my son, the expert on death. I don't think that was his last words, but I wish it would have been.
Those are great ones.
Those would have been the best last words.
Do you know Doug Stanhope has the amazing bit about his mother's euthanasia?
Oh, yeah.
On the album Beer Hall Putsch, I believe is that's how I say it.
Beer Hall Pooch?
It's P-U-T-S-C-H. I don't know that word, so I never know if I'm saying it right.
Right, it's in a language that only Doug Stanhope speaks.
But in the middle of that is like one of my favorite stand-up pieces of all time. This like 10-minute chunk about being there as his mother, chose
Passes, moves on,
end her life, and I think there's a moment where she says something as she's like she's taken the drugs.
Yep.
She's waiting, and she says a thing that makes everybody laugh and is beautiful. Like, listen to the story; it's wonderful.
Oh, that's right. No reveal. No spoiler.
But basically, he then says to her, he's like, don't say anything else. Those are perfect last words. He's big into like making the story, like sort of shaping the story.
Right. I'm going to edit your last words.
Yeah. And so in this situation, those are great. My son, the expert on death, like, I don't care that let's just say that's what he said.
Yes, totally. Whether that's the real last words or not, those will be the last words.
Yeah, it's like...
Those are great last words.
It's really one... And this is a friend of yours?
Yeah, well, an acquaintance, a friend of a friend.
Understood.
So,
not a comedian, though.
Not a comic.
So this is your story.
Yeah, now it's mine.
You can tell
it's all mine now. I've talked to my dad. And but my dad's, of course, what might have been his last words when he went for this second surgery were, because I asked the nurse, because he knew I was driving from the airport, but he was like, nah, let's just do the surgery anyway, instead of saying goodbye. And I was like, well, what if he died? Did he have anything? Did he say anything to me? And she said, yeah, he told me to tell you to tell her, do whatever she wants. She should do whatever she wants. And I was like, those are great.
That's nice.
That is, I think he meant that in general too. So that's nice.
That is good. I mean, last words. She's on her way she's almost here. Nah, let's just do the surgery. Those would be
exactly.
Not the greatest.
10 minutes. I don't want to talk to her. Maybe I'll die. That would have been horrible last words.
Yes. I was just, I had something and it's gone. And anyway.
Fair enough.
Oh, no, I have it. Here it is.
Okay.
I want to do a slight, moving, an act out of, a continuation of the scene. My son, the expert on death.
Yes.
Fine, then don't go towards the light. I don't care. Go towards the dark. What do you want? Do whatever you want.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Get pulled into the hell of Ghost, the movie. And, so okay, let's get back to ayahuasca.
Fair.
First time.
We're there. Oh, yes. The first time that I did it.
That you did it.
September.
How did you hear of it?
Of 2014. I did it.
Not long ago.
No, not long ago. In the grand scheme of the universe.
Right.
But a blink of an eye.
Tick tock.
A friend of mine, who was a comedian, now doesn't do comedy as much, is a writer, lives out here, lived in Boston. I won't say his name just for, sake of
he's fine.
Privacy.
Yep.
Good guy.
Yeah.
I'm sure he wouldn't mind. But, I'll say his first name is Jason. It's very bland. Yeah.
Yes.
Could be anybody. Any Jason that you know.
Argonaut.
Yes.
We don't know.
Mr. Jason Argonaut.
Exactly.
I'll call him. So
he's a journalist. Anyway.
He was a guy who I knew just as an acquaintance in Boston. He was a comedian who started a little bit after me there, and he lived with a friend of we were on the same
in the same circles.
We knew each other. Yeah. And I don't know how I found out that he had done it maybe like 6 months prior, like earlier in 2014, and he raved about it in a way, not like you gotta do it, but
right.
the thing that it did for him, I brought him out. He came on my podcast, so it's not a secret at all. You can listen.
Right. You could Google, what's the name of your pod?
My podcast is called Hang Out With Me.
Hang Out With Me, which I have done twice.
Yes.
And if you Google the words Jason and Hang Out With Me.
His last name is Marcus. You can yes. He spoke publicly. Yes.
Classic stand-up comics. And I guess I'll just say, I'm talking about that Albuquerque gig. It fucking sucks. Anyway,
he should go to jail. Anyway, it's illegal. Arrest him. He told me that, like, he used to be, basically, as a simplified version of the story, he used to be angry. He used to have tons of anger. His father was a sociopath, maybe still is, tried to poison him at times, treated him very badly,
full on.
Yes. Punched him in the head with a ring once, left a scar. During the ayahuasca experience, one time he was purging, vomiting, a thing that does happen sometimes, not for very long, not always. It's not the main point of it, but while he was vomiting at one point, he visualized that he was vomiting out of his body the ring that his father had punched him and scarred him with, and he's like, oh, that's the anger of my father, like, coming out of my body.
Right.
And he's like, and I just do my best to be as loving as possible towards everybody, towards myself, towards him even, towards this man who maybe tried to murder me.
Right. And put a ring on and then punched me.
Yes.
Wait, no. He just happened to be wearing it.
If you hate him, then don't put a ring on it and punch him. That's my Beyonce cover.
Exactly. So that guy was like, so it changed his life and it got rid of a lot of his rage and anger, and you're like,
yes, I like that. I mean, I don't.
You're willing to give it a shot.
Yes,
But you're also willing to kind of give it a shot.
I do give a lot of things a shot.
You're open.
I am open to
new experiences.
And I wasn't always. I mean, I was raised in a sort of very sheltered way. Like, no, my parents were sort of, I guess, not like very religious Jews, but I'd say like, classic nervous.
Right.
Like, my dad was very like, when I was going into comedy, he was like, what's your backup plan? Like, how will you live?
Yes.
How will you support yourself?
Right.
And, he's very much on board now. The joke I have is, he started to support me when he realized he wouldn't have to continue to support me.
Exactly.
And
classic parental move. Good for him.
Oh yeah. And my, mother always very loving, but also they were very like, don't do drugs, don't smoke, don't drink,
don't sleep with 1,000 women.
Yeah.
And you're like, I have to go forth.
They never told me that.
They didn't,
but,
didn't mention that?
Man,
okay.
so, I'm working. I don't think it hasn't been 1,000.
Right.
But, life is short.
Life is short. But I remember you used to do a joke about how you wanted to kind of have sex with a lot of women like puppies.
Oh,
yeah, you're like
puppies?
I don't know. It was just like, let's all cuddle.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, you're on board.
I like the two different versions of this. I resonate more towards the let's all cuddle with, I want to have sex with a lot of women like puppies.
Well, that's true.
Yes.
It's, that is.
I mean, puppies
first of
are
all,
babies.
They're too young.
Yes.
They're way too young.
They're very
to have,
cute.
Right. And they
but,
should have sex with each other when they are consenting
Absolutely.
adults as dogs.
Yes. Puppies.
Anyway.
Just play.
Just play.
But yes, I am a polyamorous person. So,
yeah. But so I always think of you as a guy that's like, yeah, sure, I'll try it.
Yes.
So.
Definitely so.
Okay.
And so, yes, I had actually heard of ayahuasca maybe 10 years ago probably was the first time, 8 or 9 or 10 years ago. I'd moved to New York. I was living with a girl, and she had a friend who either went to the jungle to do it, or was going to, or was talking about it. And that
you
was
used to have to go to the jungle.
Yes, and so you still can. And
right.
I
Knock
did,
yourself out if you want to.
Have a good time. I did go and did it. I did it in the mountains of Peru last year.
Okay.
In addition, I've mostly done it. I did it there for a week, but I've mostly done it in the United States.
Right.
Because the guide is from Peru, and
it's usually a Peruvian guide.
There are different versions of it. I think there's Colombian.
Okay.
But yeah,
But it's South American.
Yes, it's, as far as I know, it all comes from South America. But yeah, different parts of South America.
And is it does it stem from a religious thing?
I would say, as I understand it, yeah, it's sort of a cultural thing.
Okay.
That, I don't know exactly where the lines between, religion and culture there. It's definitely a part of things
blurry.
there.
Yeah.
And, for example, in Peru, they call it medicine. It's legally, I believe. Here,
okay.
legally, it's not called medicine. When I go to these things, they're called meditations.
Okay. And so when you do it, you want to have a guide, though. You don't want to do it solo.
For me, that is definitely true. And
okay.
That is how, if I were to
recommend.
And
I would say for first time.
Oh, yes.
I wouldn't do any of these.
I think you can, acquire it online, or, I wouldn't know. I like the idea of, you want to trust where it's coming from
yep.
and who's doing it. And even I've only done it with this one guide. I have some other friends who've done it with other people, and they're like, you got to do it with these people.
Right,
and
but
see
you
what it's like.
you have like a dedicated guide at this point?
I mean, I don't think he wouldn't say, and I wouldn't say I will. I do want to do it.
You're not dating. I'm just saying,
yes.
but that's the guy that
I'm
you usually go to.
polyshamanist. Yeah. Yes, this is the guy. I mean, I'm on a mailing list.
Okay.
This guy, he does it in New York every so often, and he does it in LA sometimes. I did it yesterday.
Here in LA?
Yes.
Wow. Okay. And I mean, I'm getting ahead of myself, but how
Fair.
many times have you tried it?
You know how
Or done it?
I don't know. I've succeeded.
Okay.
I would say somebody asked me the other day to estimate, and I would say more than 30, less than 100.
Wow. Okay.
But I honestly don't know where in there, and it sort of depends how you count, because sometimes it'll
and
be
in 2 years.
Yeah.
You've had your mind blown essentially over 30 times.
Yes.
Maybe 50.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, let's say 50-ish. It's sort of like in the beginning when I only did it once, then
right.
I'd done it once, and then
Yes.
the next time, and so then you count I could name the first 23 girls that I kissed, and then
All
after
right.
that I know a bunch of them, but I don't know them I could do those first 23 in order, 100%.
Wow. Good for you. There should have been a spreadsheet, my friend. And
then at a certain point I was like, I think I'll stop keeping track.
Right.
Similar to
everyone, I think.
I mean, the other thing that it's similar to is when a child is 2 3/4.
Right. When you're your age
yeah.
and stuff.
Eventually you're like,
Whenever
you're 12.
Right, like comics who count how many sets they've done.
Oh, yeah.
You're just like, okay, is this OCD or are you proving something to yourself? Which
yeah.
is, I think, when you have sex with people, I think I read a romance novel where I think the protagonist asked this guy, how many women have you slept with? And he said, I don't know. And she said, when did you stop counting?
Ha.
And he was like, and we're done talking. So there you go.
Yes.
So
yes, I don't know the exact number.
Okay. So, and I think, okay, so it's a cultural, possibly used just for sort of like, socio-cultural, the mind-blowing kind of thing.
The way that the guide that I go to puts it is that it's kind of a GPS for you to check in with where you are, to get in touch with, have a meeting with your deeper self.
Okay.
So your experience is your own experience. Everybody is sort of in a room together usually, or outside together.
Oh, it's a group activity.
Oh, it definitely is.
Okay.
Yes. The first time I went, I've done it, I think, in a group. The smallest group was a private one with 4 people in the guide. And the largest one that I've been to probably had maybe 30. The first time I think there was probably about 30 people.
Wow, that's a lot of people.
It is. But and my friend Jason was there, the one who had introduced me to it. He was next. He was probably as closer to me, maybe the same distance that you are from me now.
Okay.
Which is a couple feet.
Right.
He's on his yoga mat with his blanket.
Right.
I'm next to him. We're all sort of lining the room it's often either an art space, a yoga studio,
a black box theater somebody's rented.
Exactly.
It's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A living room.
So do you drink it? Do you smoke
Yeah,
it?
you drink it.
You drink it.
It
is made liquid.
Yes. DMT can be smoked.
Right.
I have done that once. A gentleman named Shane Moss, who you may know.
I do. He's been on this program.
Has done it extensively and talked extensively about it. And he gets really deep with the smoking. For me, the smoking, it lasts much shorter.
Okay.
It also seems like it could be infinite, because there's time dilation.
Right.
In the brain, or in the universe or whatever.
Yeah. The one time I did acid, I was like, I hate this. And I was coming down and I was like, where's more? So it was, but I think it lasted 3 or 4 hours. And then I was like, where's the rest of it?
Yes.
And, so
that is
weird.
the case. And that's like life. I hate it. Where's more?
Yeah, exactly. You're 50s.
Yeah.
And,
head to the light. Yeah.
So how long does it last if you drink it?
When you smoke it, it lasts maybe 10 to 20 minutes.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And when you drink it, it lasts, I'd say the ceremony that happens is about 4 hours.
Okay.
So the standard version of it, it'll usually be at night. Sometimes they'll do day ones as well.
Okay.
But yeah, it'll usually be
Did you do day one yesterday?
Day one yesterday.
Okay.
So
but it's indoors.
Yeah.
You're not out in nature with mushrooms? You gotta do it outside, man.
One time a person asked the guide, after the ceremony, people sort of hang around and come down and, have food because you've been fasting for a little while, beforehand. And it's sort of a nice,
Okay. So you're not supposed to eat
Yes.
6 hours?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, like 6 hours in advance, and also like light eating before that in that day, and then sort of there's dietary guidelines that they recommend, like not a lot of fried foods, not a lot of
caffeine.
Yeah, not too much caffeine. Like caffeine's okay, but no alcohol.
Okay.
No other substances.
Right.
In like the several days leading up to it.
Okay, just try to clean out your system a little bit and,
Yes.
and keep it fresh.
And so somebody asked him, we were in New York, and somebody said, is this a thing that is better to do? Is it more authentic to do? Is it more genuine to do in the jungle, like where it lives, outside, in nature? And he said, no, the experience happens in your consciousness. So
fair enough.
Wherever you are, he's like, it comes, not only from the jungle, but from the universe. Like,
right. You could be in a tree. You can be in a hut. You can be in your hotel room.
Exactly. And so, yeah, and the thing I was saying before, with Jason right next to me in that room full of 30 people, afterwards he was like, I'm sorry if I kept you, like, if I bothered you or like, intruded on your experience with my loud crying and vomiting profusely. Oh, wow. And I was like, I literally had no idea that that's what you were doing. I did not have any sense of any, like, you could open your eyes.
Because you go inside?
Yeah, because I went inside myself in the experience and didn't. Sometimes you will hear other people like making noises or moving around, or like you open your eyes and you're like, oh, people are moving, and it was definitely.
Do you see weird things, or do you mostly have your eyes closed?
Both. You close your eyes and you see weird things.
Right. I should imagine.
Yeah. With the eyes open, sometimes, depending on how much, every experience is different. Sometimes there are very few visuals. Sometimes there are many visuals. Usually the visuals are not limited to when your eyes are closed, but that's when they are at their most, salient. Okay. But sometimes when my eyes were open, in my first couple experiences, I remember seeing people kind of like moving, like there was I remember this Disney World haunted house that I went to when I was a kid. Okay. And there was like one room with like a strobe light. And so you'd see people walking, but then, it would be light and it'd be
stop motion-y.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like haltingly, like there. And I had my eyes open, and that's what it looked like, that people. So I was like, my brain, memory, things, something happening.
Right. So. And is the Peruvian guy completely not on this stuff with you?
No, he has also taken it.
He has taken it with you.
He is not. Yeah, he does not take as much as he would.
There's no RA, right? There's no. He's genuinely guiding you, but he's doing it from a place of inside the funhouse.
That is correct, but because he's been doing it for decades,
right?
Like he, quote unquote, knows what he's doing, and not only that, I think he knows what he's doing, right? And there are also other. Usually assistants, like depending how many people there are. If it's a small group, there'll be one assistant. For the larger groups, there'll be like maybe 2 or 3 other people who are capable of.
So there's lifeguards.
There definitely are. Okay. And they are people who've, done it a lot. Like they're also doing it, but they are, trained and capable of, of snapping to, like,
and
if
able
need
to deal with something.
Yes.
So. All right, let's talk about now. The other thing I've heard is the throwing up, and which you mentioned, and the crying.
Yes.
So, the first time you did you do either of those?
I did not. I'd say the first like 5 times I didn't throw up. I believe. Okay. And I'd heard, and that was one of the things that like a lot of people are worried about or like focus on. And I'll say, if you do throw up, for the most part. Number one, like sometimes
there's a bucket next to you. I assume.
Everybody gets a bucket. And you can also get to the bathroom usually just fine by yourself if you need to. You might.
So you're not immobilized.
No. If you're heavy into it, you might feel a little like you're drunk. Walking. You're like, I'm gonna walk carefully. Like, here's an experience I have whenever I'm in the bathroom on one of these things. I'm like, you're doing everything right. Everything's okay. Yeah. Just, how to do this.
Right.
Like, I had this experience like just yesterday where I was like, peeing, and I'm like. Is this taking a lot longer than it normally does? Or am I on a very powerful drug?
Right.
Probably my body's not all different.
Yeah. Your body's going to be the same.
So worst case scenario, some people like do have very, difficult physical, sick
responses,
inducing experiences depending on, what's happened in their life and body and whatever. But I would say the vast majority, the guide will sometimes say like, sometimes a person will throw up. Other times, everyone will throw up. But usually some people do, and not everybody. But when people do, and when I have, it's always been, like, the experience is 4 hours, the throwing up is 2 minutes.
Okay.
Like, it happens.
And is it instantaneous, or is it usually, in the middle of it?
Usually say we arrive at 8 p.m.
Right.
Fill out some forms. Get all set up. They collect money. They,
How much is it?
It's a few $100.
A couple $100.
Yeah.
Okay.
And depending, different places might be different.
Right.
But where I've done it.
But at least 200, not more than 5? Something like that.
Yes.
There we go.
And so you'll arrive, you'll get all the business straightened away, everybody gets settled down. The guide will, introduce himself, talk a little bit about it for new people, describe what is to happen, no expectations, just, go listen to the songs that I will sing.
Oh, they sing.
Oh, yeah, he guides the ceremony with these traditional Icaros, is what they're called.
Ecaro?
Yes. One Icaro, many Icaros.
Excellent.
And they're often in Quechua, the language, and some of them are in Spanish, and other ones Portuguese, and sometimes English.
Yep.
And different people will also participate, depending. Some people, my last girlfriend, when she would come, she would play the violin during some of them.
Oh, neat.
And that was really amazing. She would create these Icaros.
Yeah.
And so we start. So he describes what's going to happen.
Right.
Don't worry. Whatever happens, the effects come and the effects go, which is a very valuable thing because the first time I did.
The fact that it's over.
Oh, yeah.
And you're it won't last forever.
And for everything, for every emotion you've ever had, for every drug you've ever taken, for every experience, for every time you're is this forever? It never is.
It's not going to be.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's very calming to know, if I've had mushroom time dilation times and be is this limbo, purgatory? Am I senile, insane forever?
Right.
Is this heaven? What is happening? And the first time the only time I did salvia, really, that's what happened to me. I was oh, I guess this could be forever, and it's just me.
And it's interminable.
Oh, yes. But then it ends, and you're oh, that's good. And so it's good to know,
right.
Everything so far that has ended, except for the exact thing that's happening right now, which will very likely also
Dork Forest's going to be over.
Oh, yeah.
That's it. It's all going to come together.
Definitely. This episode, the whole thing, there's,
So that's maybe 15 minutes, half an hour of orientation?
Yes, I would say, we get there at 8, everybody's milling about, 9 o'clock, start talking, 15 minutes, then sit down, he'll sit, he'll do sort of these cleansing rituals, sometimes with this tobacco called mapacho.
Okay.
Sometimes with this oil that I don't know what it is, but it's a nice smelling oil that he'll sort of, blow in the 4 directions to, I think, symbolize the protection of the space. And there's this wood called Palo Santo that gets burned, and then each, an assistant will come around and wave it around your body and your seating area, and it smells nice and is protective. Theoretically, symbolically, at least.
Right. It has a little bit of a feel of the Hunger Games or Marie Antoinette. But
I definitely
let's do it.
It's comforting that they're doing it.
And it's nice that there's rituals.
Yes.
Rituals are nice.
This is the most religious thing that I engage in, for sure. It's very, it is like church. It is like temple. The songs are, these, somebody, Gibun or Big, I forget. There's some Hebrew type of thing that describes chanting without words. It's
okay.
Nine, 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 that kind of. And so it's sort of, and sometimes the visuals that you see will also be sort of cross-cultural, hieroglyphics, ancient Egypt, Asia, these things, all of,
There's a tiger.
Yeah. There's,
neat.
Yeah, the 3 realms of the underworld, this realm, the heavenly realm is represented by the snake, the cat, and the condor.
Okay.
People will see snakes, people will see condors, you can see anything.
Right.
And so, yes, there are rituals that I'm I've been a person who I don't, my mom would light the Hanukkah candles growing up, and that was nice, but I don't have a particularly strong attachment to those any particular Jewish rituals.
Right, you don't dash off for Yom Kippur.
I don't.
No, okay. As a child, Purim?
Yeah,
who knows?
Exactly, yeah.
But,
I so I don't like ritual for ritual's sake, but I like when a ritual is meaningful to a person. And so when the person is me, I'm oh, now this whole experience is a beautiful, communal thing where it's not, I assume that if some people go to church and they're I like being there with the people that I care about.
Right.
And, talking about the things that are valuable. And so it's not just you go to church because you go to church,
Right.
It's I go here because there is a valuable thing that I get from it.
It's the social community that I think most people do for any religious or social gathering.
And,
So it's fine.
And then in addition to that, there is this actual thing, this,
Right,
happening
your mind's
in my
about to
brain.
be blown.
Yes.
So an hour later, then that's when you take the drink?
Yeah. So yeah, after the talking,
Yeah.
he sits, he drinks,
Okay.
then it goes around, everybody goes up and receives the drink from him.
Okay.
Again, similar to, I guess sort of
Communion-y kind of thing.
Exactly.
So it's, how much is it? Is it 3 ounces? Is it an ounce and a half? Is it a shot and a half?
There is a shot glass.
Okay.
It's usually shot glass, and when you start, I think probably the first one, he would give you maybe like half a glass.
Half a
So
shot
I
glass?
had a buddy who came yesterday
Yeah.
for the first time, got half a glass, and I got a full glass.
Okay.
But also it depends on the exact, he knows, if he knows you, then
Right.
he might,
He'll give you the 3 ounces if he does, or the ounce and a half.
Yes.
Otherwise, you get a half an ounce or 3/4 of an ounce.
yes. And then there's almost always, he'll check in with you. And the reason, obviously, different people have different sensitivities. So he wants to not give you too much. So for
Yeah.
the first time, you get, a small amount to start. And he's like, slowly, I'll check with you. And so after an hour, he's like, do you feel it? Do you need more?
Yeah.
And then anybody who wants or thinks they need more will get more. So usually, the ways that I've done it, 2 shots is usually the maximum. Very rarely will people get a 3rd shot.
I bet. So is it mixed with water?
No, it is just I don't know how the cooking process happens, but
Right.
it's just this vine and leaf, cooked
That
for
have been-
hours and hours, and then it is in this form that they call a tea.
It's like, okay, it's made into a tea.
Yes.
And so there's no leaves in it. It is just the liquid.
It is mostly just liquid. Every once in a while, there are chunky portions.
There
of
might
it.
be a chunk of tea.
Yes.
Of like tea.
Yeah.
So you'll do the shot.
Yes.
And then you'll go back and sit down.
Yes, and after everyone has done that, he will turn off, if it's nighttime, turn off the lights. Everybody sits. I close my eyes. Most people, I think, close their eyes.
Candles? Any light?
Yeah,
or just
there's
dark?
I mean, there's candles at the doors so that you can get to the bathroom.
Right.
But
Like
for the
night
most
lighty
part,
kind of things.
Yes.
Okay.
But mostly it is dark. And then he says, when I feel the plant moving in me, I will start to guide the ceremony. He'll ring these chimes to demonstrate that it's starting.
Yeah.
And then he'll, start speaking, singing, chanting these
Okay.
ikaros. He'll do one, he'll stop, he'll do another one, he'll stop, another person will do one, after
Right.
a couple, and then he'll be he'll check in, he'll be sort of wandering the room.
Oh,
as
he'll
well.
get up and kind of look at
Yeah.
people, make sure everybody's still.
Sometimes he's sitting, sometimes he'll walk around, sometimes, he'll check in with you and be like, are you feeling it?
Yes.
And so yesterday, sometimes it takes me longer to feel it.
Yeah.
And so sometimes there's anxiety over should I take more? I don't want to take too much, but I
Right.
also don't want to not take enough,
Right.
And it's funny, one of the things that I was thinking about was the idea of just power in general as a thing that people think that power is a good thing. The more power you have, the better. But then some people
Yeah.
So I was thinking of analogies to it's good to have food, but if you have too much food,
Right.
that will hurt you.
Yes.
That can kill you. If you have light is good, but if you have too much light, you can't go to sleep when you want to go to sleep. So there's this, you want to have enough, but not too much
Right.
of the stuff. But at the same time, I'm should I take another shot? I kind of want more. More is better. More of the experience.
Yeah.
Listen to the philosophy that you were just telling yourself about other people,
Right.
and life, and also when he said to me, "Have you are you feeling it?" and I said, "Not quite yet, a little," and he's like, "I gave you a lot, so wait a little bit."
Yes.
And so that was a good recommendation to
In the
take.
end.
Yes, yeah, and it was very smooth and nice.
So so you're conscious that you've taken this.
Yes. I mean, there are definitely times when I've taken a lot, or when it's affected me a lot. I'll say, our friend Zach Sherwin has done it, with
He
me
also wants to
separately.
do an episode.
Oh, yeah.
About ayahuasca.
I recommend it.
Yes.
It's basically like he's doing it now.
Right. He's around.
Here is, a thing that he, experienced. Oh, what were we just talking about? Oh, yeah. Wait, no.
Power?
Power, doing a lot, taking a second shot. Nope, lost it.
Lost it? Fair enough. So consciousness. Whether you're conscious
Oh,
in
yes,
the moment.
perfect.
Yeah.
You got it. You brought me back to the consciousness.
That's it.
He told me that one time, he was so deep that he had names in his head. He was like, Zach, Myq, Casey. Casey was the name of my girlfriend who would also do it with us. But he was like, at the time, I remember not knowing what those names referred to. He's like, I didn't know that was me. He's like, I was like so far like into just like everything or deep into like the oneness of the universe that is like, I know those are meaningful concepts to me.
Right. I know they mean something to me, but I don't know what they mean.
So there are times when you're definitely, in ways that are meaningfully not yourself.
Right.
Where maybe if you open your eyes, you're like, okay, this seems to be a body. I'm familiar with this body. But also there's times when like, you're like, I want to put this clothing, this like hoodie on, but I don't know how it works.
Okay.
I'm trying to do like.
So like, it's kind of like when you're super drunk.
Yeah.
And you can't really make your body work.
Yes.
So that sounds awesome.
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan of checking out. Anyway, but let's talk about the good ways that where you do get insight and your mind is blown.
Certainly.
Because that's what people,
do it
I think
for.
Maria's sister, does it fairly often.
Okay.
And because she is, studying some sort of Native American shamanism or something.
That makes sense.
Up in Duluth. Gutsy stuff.
Okay. Yeah.
And,
I will say that the two benefits, like the big categories of benefits that I have gleaned, that Zach and I have talked about, that, I talk about with the people that I know that have done it. There's like life coaching and then a thing that Casey, affectionately called death coaching.
Oh.
And so life coaching is...
What the hell?
Yeah.
Yeah.
For example, so life coaching is like the things that you might have to deal with in, like, here's an example for me. When Casey moved to New York to live with me, we were looking for a place. And it was like the 4th of July weekend, and we'd looked at a couple places, and we had to find a place by August was what our goal was. And we're like, we hadn't found one yet. But it was now 4th of July weekend, everything's closed, we've done everything we can, and we're doing a ceremony. And I'm like, great, I can't do anything with this housing stuff, so let's just have this experience.
Right.
But for a good chunk of it, I was thinking about the housing thing, because it was in me, and it was an anxiety. And a thing that I thought while I was in the experience was, what am I feel fear. Like, what am I scared of? I'm scared of not having a place to live, but that's not going to happen. I'm definitely going to have a place to live. Like, I have savings.
Right.
Like, even if I, like,
you got
worst case,
backup.
I could live in a hotel. I could live in an Airbnb. I could crash with friends. My mom's in New Jersey. My dad's in New Jersey.
Right.
I could get a place that costs more than I want to for a little while. I could stay in my old place that is more expensive than I want to for a little while. I could find a new place that's not great, that's too small, I started enumerating all of the things that could be, and I'm like, well, it's definitely gonna be one of those.
Right.
And so I was like, what am I afraid of? I'm afraid of the unknown future, but it's not exactly unknown. I know that it's one of these things, so there's nothing to fear about this. So the idea that I came up with was, it might suck, but it's not scary.
Right.
And I'm like, I've had things suck before. Things suck for other people way more often and way worse.
Right.
Than this is obviously like knowing where your home is
Yes.
a valuable thing.
Right.
And I'm like, so I understood, and I'm like, I forgive myself for feeling like this, but it really helped me put into perspective. I'm like, oh, like this will be okay.
This is not the end.
Yes.
Right. It's that nebulous future of, oh, I betcha this is where it all falls apart and I'm just lying on the ground.
Yeah.
And you're not.
No, I'm definitely, and so.
You would at least sit up.
Yes. Yeah. I'm capable.
Right.
I'm able-bodied.
Exactly.
Currently.
You have all of your bones.
Yes.
So, okay. So do you go in with an agenda?
Great question. There's a quote I like by Niels Bohr, I believe, that I'm not sure if I'll paraphrase. It's something about the opposite of a small truth is a lie, but the opposite of a great truth is another great truth, often.
Oh.
So, for example,
yes, please.
I would say, like, love yourself, love others, or like be yourself, but also always be open to growing and changing, because yourself isn't just one constant thing. And so I say in this example, like, should you go into things like with an agenda or open to whatever's going to happen? And the answer can be either or both, sometimes at once, kind of. Like, the guide will often say, like, come into it with no expectations, and it will give you what you need. It will have you address the thing. Like, if you don't plan, sometimes they do say, like, spend the day leading up to it, meditating on what you might think about, what you might talk about, like, let things rise to the surface, but whatever the case is, something will, or many things will,
Really?
rise to the surface. And like the day before I did it, yesterday, I'd gone with Zach to a panel on racial justice, and that's a thing that, I and many people, I'm sure, are thinking about in this day and age, and hopefully forever until there is racial justice.
That'd be great.
And so that's a thing that, like, when people say now, like, how are you? A joke that I have is, and a truth that I have is, I'm like, I used to know how to answer that immediately.
Right.
And now I'm like, ooh, you mean like, I'm okay, but everything's not, so.
Right.
I'm part of everything, and everything's part of me, so also, it's very complicated.
It's very, yes.
Do you want me to just say fine? Okay.
Okay.
Do you care about me for real?
Yeah.
Or
Are we really having this conversation?
Are we friends or colleagues? Yeah.
Or did you just want to know if I wanted a cup of coffee?
Yes. I'll have tea, please. Ayahuasca tea. Do you have any? Thank you.
Yes.
And so I was thinking, like, when I was going into the ceremony, I'm like, what will I be thinking about? Like, I didn't have in mind that I definitely would be thinking about that stuff.
Right.
And in the beginning, at least, before it really kicks in, you're basically just, you're sitting and you're meditating and you're, present with your thoughts and feelings. And you're like, oh, like, what is in me now? And so sometimes I will consciously think about, like, I love these people and these things, or like, I've wronged these people and these situations are things that I, wish to fix or regret or not repeat. This is, what do I want to do moving forward? And so it popped into my head, some of the things that they discussed on the panel popped into my head. And I was like, oh, those are like things to do, like, outside of this experience.
Right.
Like when I get home, like go
Actual
to more
action.
like surge meetings and, find panels like that and, find friends to go with and, support and organize and activate more. I mean, and I've been doing that as much as I can and know how to and want to. And I'm like, but keep doing that. And so that didn't become like a major theme of the experience, because I was like, okay, that's sort of like, got it. And now, like, put that in a little compartment and then move forward with whatever's going to happen. Which sometimes, it's often like, the themes are like love for yourself, love for the world, other people.
Right, because the big questions that you can go into with these things are love and fear and joy and pain.
Yes.
I mean, you can have like a flashcard of different, the big questions, you know? It's like, and life and death and all these things.
Definitely. There was one time, maybe, exactly like two years ago now. Yeah. So February of 2015, I did a Saturday in New York, a Saturday night and a Sunday night. So sometimes they'll do, two
back to back.
Yes. And not in an interesting way. So like often out in LA, because of the different arrangements of the spaces they have, they'll do a Saturday night and then a Sunday morning, which is so I did the Sunday morning.
Okay.
This time. And I'll often do the Saturday night and the Sunday morning.
Okay.
But in New York, because it happens in a space that they don't have during the day, it'll happen a Saturday night, and then a Sunday night, which is interesting because then there's sort of like more fasting,
Right. It's like you come way down.
Yes. It's nice to.
When you come down, is it depressing?
It's not. It lasts in your system for, I think, up to 3 days.
Okay.
And sometimes, like, I remember the first time I did it, like, I woke up, the next couple days that I would wake up, I would, like, feel it kind of crackling through me, like I was coming out of it again.
Okay.
And so, and it was, in those moments, very pleasant and valuable. And even the ones when, during the experience, wasn't the most pleasant. Like, I've had painful ones.
Yeah.
But I think back on those fondly as well, because I'm like, oh, that was valuable pain. There was learning happening. And, it's sort of everything.
Was it psychological, like mind-blowing kind of? Because okay, not to interrupt,
Please.
but I had a conversation last night with a comic, and I can't remember his last name. Well, it's a great story.
Jason.
And it was Shane Moss. No, I have no idea, but
we're all one.
we're all one. And I was talking about how in probably over the last 2.5 years, and because of the situation in the world and the amount of anxiety and about the fact that things do end, and everyone has lived through history before, history continues, whether or not we all live through it doesn't matter, but it's just what you do as you go through history.
Yes.
I've never wanted to live through exciting history before. Just wanted to visit it, time travel.
Oh, yeah.
But that was all. And, in in the last couple of years, I've had like it felt like an unlocking of part of my psyche.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of blew my mind in the way, and it was embarrassing because when you realize what happened about in the last 3 years, there has been, I've always tried to treat everybody good and be a decent person. Sure. What the heck?
You've been doing it for me.
Right. And, but in the last couple of years, there's been this, advent of a lot of different videos showing up of cops murdering, black people.
Oh, yes.
And it brought my awareness to another level. And it brought that anger to another level, and it brought that shock and weird, a lot of different emotions. But what it unlocked in my mind that I just became aware of yesterday was that I have learned over the last 2 years to treat more people as just people instead of, hey, that's a black guy.
Oh,
or,
yeah.
Look at that tiny Asian woman. What is happening? Crazy lady. And it's embarrassing to say out loud.
I understand.
But it felt like a drug. In fact, that it was like a part of my brain that literally a vault opened and it revealed something that was I'm not proud of about myself, where I'm just like, no, you have to meet every person. Every person is just going along like you are on the inside, having they're watching the same fucking television or avoiding the same fucking television and eating food and interacting with their parents and their family and their friends and dogs.
The world, yeah.
Yeah. So it literally sounds so basic, but it genuinely blew my mind.
I mean, I would also say that there are many people for whom, like, I'm going to say a thing about several women and then one particular woman, just to put bookmarks in this. So,
okay.
The first thing, I had an experience a few years ago where I was single. When I became single, like, I'd be like, I'm going to start, like, hooking up with people and dating around and doing whatever. And so I was seeing a few people, and there was like 1 week where I like had sex with or hooked up with 4 different people.
Okay.
And I was like, great, the numbers, more is better. but one of them was like an experience that I didn't enjoy that much. And I was like, oh, I guess more not better,
More not better.
And like I would go on stage and I'd be like, guys, did you know that just because you can have sex with someone doesn't mean you must have sex with someone? I was like, am I a genius?
Right.
Or am I catching up? And the answer is great truth opposites, both, because for some people it might be like, you are dumb, that is obvious. And other people might be like, oh, that is a valuable insight. And so like what you're saying, you're like, of course that's the truth, and of course that's what quote unquote should be, but how many millions, billions of people might there be who would not only not know that, but vehemently disagree that that's correct and true and like
real.
To be human is like, no, it's to be part of a tribe, part of a family, part of a something, and like I'm a thing and you're not a thing. It's us and them.
Right.
As opposed to it's us.
Right. It's all just one. I mean, while the individual is real, the experience is enormous. It's almost exactly parallel. That's what kind of blew my mind.
Yes. The other thing, there was this, somebody told me, I think, now this is too many degrees removed for me to have any sense of accuracy, but at least the story will make sense I think, that there was an Asian woman who was talking with her friends about how she like, most of my life, like most of my experience, my conscious waking existence, she's like, I don't think about the fact that I'm Asian. I don't think about the fact that I'm a woman until I'm talking to like a white man. And then I'm like, this person is like, you're an Asian woman.
Right.
So much of our identity comes from the way that other people
It's a drum
treat
beat
us.
Playing in the background.
Yes.
Like I have spent, I've only spent the last probably 8 years of my life being more aware of, like, I've always known that there was sexism, but I never thought about sexism.
Oh, sure.
Because it was, you don't think about the water you're swimming in.
Yes.
You just respond to the current, right? You're like, oh, well, don't do that because that's probably going to end poorly. And if I thought about it from a distance, it'd be, don't do that because it'll end poorly because I'm a woman. And that didn't work out. Maybe, and I would think sometimes, well, maybe it was because I was a woman that he didn't like it. I was like, well, I guess I just got to keep trying harder. And it never occurred to me that I was like, oh, that's actually not cool.
Oh, yeah.
But it was, I was actually not looking forward to and looking forward to Hillary Clinton as president because of the sheer enormity of sexism that was going to come out. Turns out it's out anyway.
Oh, yeah.
It's coming just from all sides, but there's too many issues that are coming for me to have to pick one thing to be angry about.
Do you know?
With Hillary, I could have just been angry about sexism.
That'd have been great.
Now, it would have been great.
But now you gotta have intersectional anger.
Oh my God, there are too many lanes, you guys. And I don't wanna mess up somebody else's thread.
No.
Because feel free to be mad.
Yes.
About the
Oh yeah.
You know.
There are immigrants, there are black people, there are all races of people, all people of color, there are Native Americans, there are women, there are trans
there's
people,
the environment,
there are queer people. Yes.
There's science,
Yeah.
there's arts, there's the environment, there's
are all important.
people,
Yeah.
and all the different people that are hated by 9 guys.
Yeah.
That for some reason 33% of the public seem to be following 9 guys.
Ugh.
You're like, I don't understand. But yeah, I mean it's mind blowing and it's trying to deal with it. There's part of me that would love to do ayahuasca because I think that there might be an answer.
Do you know the Zen koan story thing of chop wood, carry water?
It sounds like put one foot in front of the other. Is that what it is?
It's not, that can go along with it.
Okay.
While you're chopping wood and carrying water, do put one foot in front of the other. The thing is, they say, before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water.
Okay.
After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. And so the point, like, one illustration of that that I liked is I heard about a guy who like had a corporate job that he hated. And so he saved up a lot of money and he's like, I quit. And then he went traveling the world for 11 years and just loved it. Did all the things, like lived life to the fullest, like, fully engaged, was active mentally and mindfully. And after 11 years, he found himself back in the very town that he had left. And somebody said, hey, your old job is open, just coincidentally. Would you like it again? And he was like, sure. And then he did it and he loved it. And so he had this experience of enlightenment and then he did the exact same thing he was doing, but now with the knowledge that, he wasn't missing out on things. He wasn't regretting things. He was caring about doing it caringly.
To some extent, it was perspective.
Yes, and similarly, I thought of it because of the way that you were saying, people, I'm being treated badly. I should just do more, try harder, do what I can. And then you're like, wait a second. Then the enlightenment of some of this is about sexism. I'm a woman and people are treating me and now you're enlightened and now you're like, and now what do I do? The same thing that you were doing.
It turns out I have to try harder and work harder and it'll be fun.
And that trying and working is actually now potentially more informed by this
It is
new
more
knowledge.
informed and whether or not, when I tried and worked and did whatever, without it, there was a dissatisfaction when it wouldn't work. And now when I try and work and it doesn't work out, there is also a dissatisfaction.
Of course.
But there's nothing, so it doesn't change except for that I do think, oh, I see what's happening. And then I can, to some extent, make fun of it.
Yes.
And before I couldn't make fun of it because I didn't acknowledge that it existed.
And the more that you acknowledge it, the more you will be in tune with and in touch with other people who understand and acknowledge it and see. And then the more people that acknowledge and understand reality, then you're basically discovering and creating a new reality.
Right. Because maybe then there could be, this is a story for the Jackie and Laurie show, but it just happened on Saturday night. I did a show in Santa Barbara and there were 5 guys who went up before me.
Sure.
All of them have been doing stand-up for approximately somewhere between 6 months and 6 years maxed out, I thought.
Okay.
MC might have been a little longer. But to a man, they were all doing 10s. To a man, they had some version of a joke about feminism and how feminism was good and women should have should have power and be treated correctly.
So far, I like the story.
Right? Followed by some version of, and wouldn't feminism look good on my dick? So it was just a weird, it was or bitches or, some version of, of the twist because they were, and it's like when a guy buys a guitar to play a guitar, he thinks he might get laid. It doesn't mean he doesn't love music. It just means he also thinks he might get laid.
Yes.
So I'm not saying that those guys aren't feminists. I'm saying that they were like, well, this also might help me get laid.
Which, I mean, and I'm of many minds, but because there's also guys who would be like, I'm a feminist, but then they're like, and I'm not going to say the part about wanting to get laid because of it, because that might stop me from getting laid because of it. Right. But then depending on how, see-through they are. Like,
right. Because none of them actually went there. It was just sort of there was a beat where a couple of them waited for the applause.
I do things that are expected of me in a polite, civilized society. Other people don't do it.
And by the way, just for the record, all of them had at least one joke that I laughed out loud at.
Fair.
So they were perfectly good comics, young comics working towards learning how to do stand-up comedy.
Sure.
And a lot of them were about 20 years old, maybe 22. So they were also very young men.
They're young.
So they want to get laid.
Yes.
I mean, I begrudge.
They
I'm not here.
Allowed to want to get laid.
Right. I am not here to cock block anyone. Knock yourselves out, gentlemen. But I found it humorous. That is all. I just found it funny. And
I like it.
Yeah.
Another thing that I was reminded of when you were talking
we
about
should get back to Ayahuasca.
The current. This is where maybe we'll get back there. But this conversation is like ayahuasca. It takes you on journeys.
Yes.
There is a thing I read about two transgender professional, I believe, professors. And one of them was a trans man and one of them was a trans woman. And both of them were active in their field prior to transitioning publicly. So they had previously worked in the field identifying as as a man before
Transing
a woman,
to a woman.
yes,
Yep.
and a woman before identifying as a man.
Mm-hmm.
And they both identified sexism that they experienced when living as a woman, like regardless of, whether a trans man or a cis man, they received the benefit of the doubt all the time. And when living as a trans woman or a cis woman, they were like questioned more. And it was like they were, in some ways, literally the same person from one moment to the next, as much as any of us are the same.
Right.
Their consciousness, they have the memories of the body that they're in.
Right.
And they compared it to, or the author of the article compared it to there being this, insidious, always present current of sexism that when you live your life with one gender identity, you don't notice it because you are in it all the time. You're in the water. So if you're a man in our society, you're being carried by the current. And when you swim, you're like, I'm swimming really fast and far. I'm doing so great. I'm accomplishing things. And it gives you confidence. And you actually then do get to be a better swimmer. And then when you're a woman in our society, you're swimming against the current and you're like, I think I'm swimming as hard as a man is swimming, but I'm not getting as far. I must not be as good as a man, and it's internalized.
Yeah.
And it's I was like, wow, that's
a great, that's a beautiful kind of metaphor of, or whatever, analogy? Yeah, whatever.
Well, I like it.
It's a nice picture, nice drawing, well played. And so we are close to an hour, so we should talk about, I don't know, let's safety mouse it.
Yeah,
let's safety mouse it and just say, blow off that coaster.
Nope, I like it.
And so the coaster keeps falling. But I would say, for safety's sake, you should do with a person.
Oh yes, I recommend, like, if you know any. It's feel like people are talking about it a lot more these days. So. At least in our community, in the people that I know, maybe it's more popular amongst artists and performers and things, but maybe not. It's definitely, like, I read an article in the New Yorker, like, there's definitely things.
Right. It's happening in Duluth, Minnesota. So, it's not like you can't get it, in a smaller metropolitan area.
So definitely,
but be guided.
Yes, definitely. Find, if, I'm sure it's all going to be by, like, word of mouth. So if you know somebody,
you can't Google it?
You probably can. Yeah. But I guess my recommendation, the way that I've done it is that I knew somebody who did it and he spoke highly of the experience. And, then you talk to the people in advance, like, kind of like when I first got my manager. Yep. He saw me perform and he's like, do you have a manager? And I said, no. And he said, I'm a manager and here's my card. And, like, let's start talking. Right. Kind of like the beginning of a dating process where you're like, we're not just like, we're married, but he's like, I'll answer some questions. If you have any questions, I'll start trying to help you, get you jobs if you want to. And like then little by little, months later, we were like, yeah, we like each other. We're in this. But if it didn't feel right for one of us, then we would have been like, well, we don't have to do this.
Right.
And similarly, like, my buddy who did it for the first time yesterday, I've been sort of, singing the praises of what can be accomplished for some months or however long it had been going. And he was like, I do want to do it. Like he'd had some positive like mushrooms experiences, and then some not positive ones. So he's like, I have some anxiety.
Sure.
And he had some like what seemed to him to be like reasonable anxiety, but also he knows he has anxiety. And so I was like doing my best to field, the answers to his questions. And then also like I put him in touch with the assistant who coordinates.
Oh,
and
right.
Then, that person could answer questions.
Yes.
And then the guide could answer questions. And so, there's certain things like if you're on certain antidepressants, then they say you shouldn't do it because if you have certain like dissociative,
right. I have an
things,
addiction. I have an addictive personality. There's part of me that is like, I should not do this because I don't want to trigger that, which would make me only want to do that and then everything in a row behind that. And so,
and I mean, I would say, I also think that I have been like, I probably have done this more than most people that I know. I mean, I'm sure there are many people like the guy.
I was surprised at how much you had done it.
Yes.
So there you go.
Yes. And I definitely, there was a time, like the very first time I did it and had a beautiful euphoric experience, which isn't always the case, but it was my first couple times.
Okay.
And it was a nice welcome to the world. And the first time I did, I was like, I wasn't even on the mailing list. I just got in through my friend and I went to the guy's assistant who is now my friend. But at the time I was like, please let me know like when this is happening again. I would like to do this again.
Right.
But I also, similar to mushrooms, like I'm not a big pot guy, but I used to be like really into mushrooms. I still like mushrooms, but when I would do mushrooms, you do it and it lasts, the better part of a day.
Right.
And then you come down and you're like, I've learned some things. I've had some times. I had some laughs. I have new jokes. I have new philosophies.
I thought
have
about things.
New friends. But I'm not like, let's do it again tomorrow.
Right.
Like, I don't know if you've done mushrooms.
I have, and but not for a long time. And
mushrooms didn't make you need to do mushrooms every day because that's not how it operates.
No.
And this thing similarly, like this, it's a powerful experience. It takes a lot out of you. Like it takes the fact that it takes, days of preparation, of, minding your diet, of, not drinking, of like, I will drink less now. There was a time when I was like, I'm not going to drink just in case an ayahuasca ceremony breaks out.
Yeah.
But also it's like, I don't care that much about drinking.
Right.
And so I would say to you, like, I mean, definitely I would talk with if you wanted to do it, I think you wouldn't become so hooked that, I mean, number one, you wouldn't be able to do it all the time because it's not happening all the time.
Right.
It wouldn't take over your life because, I mean, the most that I've done it is probably, other than in Peru when I did it 5 times in a week, because that was the thing to do there. I probably have done it 4 times in a month, like maybe, a Saturday, Sunday and another Saturday, Sunday.
Right.
Which is a lot.
That is a lot.
But it's still only 4 days out of the month.
Right.
It's not like how often do people drink every day?
Right. And what was oh yeah. But what about, and so I think we should go over just a little bit, just because of, you mentioned that the first couple times were positive, but there were where it wasn't entirely positive. Was it just emotionally draining or was it scary?
Some of both.
Okay.
So I think I started this time. The time in February 2 years ago, the first night, the Saturday night, there was not a lot of visuals for me, but there was a lot of mental clarity. I felt very intellectually activated, and the message that I came out with mainly that was just flashing through my head was about love and forgiveness. I was always love, always forgive. And imagining myself confronting somebody who's but what about if? I'm no, always, 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 in a very not necessarily loving, I'm always love, always forgive, always, always. When would it be but what if somebody makes you? No, always, always love and forgive. There can't be a time when it's not right to love them. And the next night I was, partially because I was physically drained, I'm sure, from the night before, from the days of fasting, but also just sometimes it gives you you have an experience, you're that seems like everything. What more could there be? And then they're oh, here's a slight perspective shift, and it's completely different, and here's more of everything, and you never get everything, because everything's a lot. But that night, I was so emotionally connected that I like hardly even could intellectually like think a thought, and I felt like the person that I was yelling at from the night before. I was felt like I was
okay.
I'm weak. I'm tired.
Yeah.
I feel I can't. I don't know what you want from. I love, but I also like I can't like.
Wow.
Stop yelling at me.
Right.
And I was like, oh, those are both valuable portions of the yin yang.
Very much so. Almost a very yin yang.
And I wouldn't, obviously after that, and probably even before that, I wouldn't go out and yell at people to always love and always forgive. But I'm like, myself. That's the thing that I'm like,
No, that's the internal yelling. Yes. And hopefully now try to always love and always, yes.
So sometimes it's physical weakness. The third time I did it was the time that I talk about this in my stand-up now, but I had like eaten, so they're like, don't eat past 3 p.m. But it was like 2:55 and I ate a lot.
Okay.
Because I was like, not breaking the rules. But it was then just weighed in me like really heavily. Like some people can like eat a lot and be fine.
Yeah.
But they're like, here's the guidelines. This is what we recommend doing. You don't have to, but it's for a reason.
Yeah.
It's not just like, don't eat these foods because.
Right.
It's like, this can actually, it's biological in your body.
Right. It's a chemical just like the tea that you just drank.
So I had this, my stomach was just full, and then it interacted with the stuff and was just like pounding my stomach a lot. And so I was like, one of the jokes that I tell is that, like I was blissful in my mind, but I was like, oh God in here, but oh God up here. Another kind of yin yang of joy and pain.
Right.
And like, I didn't want to, I'm like, what if it's a package deal? I don't want to like, get it all out of my system because like what if I don't want to shit out the bliss.
Right.
Yeah. And
I don't know how not to stop it, shit out the bliss.
But just to conclude that after that experience, which was actually the first time that Zach Sherwin had done it at all.
Right.
Like afterwards I was back to my body was fine.
Yep.
And my mind like the bliss was like sort of,
still
dispersing throughout my whole system.
Good.
I was like, oh, this is good. Oh, that was hard, but I'm here. And it's always been like when it's physically or emotionally or otherwise difficult, I come out of it and I'm like, oh, okay, that was, even sometimes it's like the next day that it's like one time it ended and I was like, oh God, I'm still really anxious. This is horrible. But like the next day I like talked with Zach while I was driving for a few hours. I'm like, it seems like the ceremony's ending now. Like,
okay.
There's this one time the guide said a thing that I looked up and is now, it's also like an Oscar Wilde quote, everything will be fine in the end. If it's not fine, it's not the end.
Oh, there you go.
And so I liked that a lot. And everything will be fine at the end of this podcast. But I also I didn't get into extensively death coaching, but
right.
Basically, it just, if you want, in short, a thing that Zach said once, like we've seen these like visual, like a thing that we call the pattern that I've heard other people call that also. And it's sort of like when your eyes are closed and you're like, oh, whatever it is representing the universe, everything, and our consciousness are like parts of it that bulge out of it and then recede back into it, and if that's, sort of it could be a metaphor. It could be in whatever way literally possible.
Sure.
So like I feel like I'm always putting these words into Zach's mouth and I'm like, I like these words. So they're my words now too.
Right.
But, so imagine somebody says to Zach, do you know what happens when we die? Like, what do you think happens to one's consciousness after death? And he said once something like, I definitely don't know, but if I do know, it's exactly this.
Oh, there.
This thing that I experienced. And for me, it's been a calming thing. I mean, I'm definitely like, I fear
You had
death.
Zach Sherwin's timing, by the way, when you said that.
Thank you
very
well
much.
played. And the point is, I fear death less. I literally, like, used to be, when I would think about infinity and not existing.
Right.
And be like, I exist now, but
what's going to happen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm like, probably what happened before I existed.
Right. It's all going to be.
I wasn't worried then.
Still going to be fine.
Yeah.
So, Myq Kaplan, this has been fascinating.
I appreciate it. It's the same to me.
It's been pretty dorky, you guys. We dorked out. We dorked out pretty hard.
We did
about
what we were
Ayahuasca.
supposed to do.
Exactly.
We followed the rule, the guidelines of the podcast.
Myq is spelled M-Y-Q, so it's at Myq Kaplan, K-A-P-L-A-N, and that's all of it. That's Twitter,
everywhere.
probably Instagram.
Oh, yeah.
All of the things.
I started putting pictures.
Yay. You have a new album that is currently available on all platforms called No Kidding. And, so this has been wonderful. And so Rangers, thanks for listening. You know the rules out there. Take care of each other.
My hat, my hat, my hat.
They're dancing around my hat, my hat, my hat, my hat. Well, what do you think of that? If it looks like a Mexican hat dance and it sounds like a Mexican hat dance, it's most likely a Mexican hat dance. So take off your hat and let's dance.
Yay! Oh my God. Why don't we just call that as the end of the show?